welcome back. It is now time for the Capitol Report with Capitol Beat OK's Pat McGuigan. Now, Pat, let's go and get right to it. A big week for the Supreme Court. Let's go ahead and start off with something that will directly impact Oklahomans right now, the Affordable Care Act. There's a decision made there regarding subsidies.
Yeah, certainly not a slow news week in the nation's capital. Alexander Hamilton in the Federalist Papers at the founding of the country referred to the judicial branch as the weakest branch of government. That's certainly no longer the case. This is a transformational week. For now, the Affordable Care Act will stay in place thanks to Justice Roberts writing the controlling opinion with Justice Kennedy joining him. As a result, we now have a sequence of decisions saying that the federal government can mandate individual participation in a market, in this case the healthcare market, even if a person would otherwise choose to abstain from that participation. Further, all taxpayers can be required to finance that participation, even if they would prefer to keep those resources for themselves and commit them otherwise. This is a market that will be run by the government, even though there will remain vestiges of private sector involvement. It immediately erodes further the federalist system, which assumed that most tough issues would be left to the states and to the people, the elected representatives of the people. Those are all just descriptions of its legal impact. Going forward, I think there's a depth of concern about sustainability, so I wouldn't be surprised to see some tinkering with individual provisions. And eventually some of that tinkering might even be supported by Democrats that recognize the long-term fiscal implications of this for the whole country. But Affordable Care Act, still in place.
The other major decision, same-sex marriage, the court now makes it legal in all 50 states.
Yes, and you want to talk about transformational. The hero of Thursday's Obamacare ruling for the proponents of that was a dissenter in this case, and even went to the point of reading his dissent from the chair, and that's Chief Justice Roberts. I have many friends who are delighted with this decision, and I have many friends that are astounded with this decision. The one thing I'd say is I caution that results-oriented jurisprudence often results in a diminution or a shrinking of the arena of democratic choice. This was a matter that has always been left to the states and their elected representatives. Over the last couple of years, judges have transformed that. For the most part, there's been some regional democratic choice, but for the most part, the courts have been driving this. And Justice Scalia had a point when he said the problem here is you're assuming that every generation since the passage of the 14th Amendment somehow missed the implications of the 14th Amendment for same-sex marriage. That's a very rational point. It's a reasonable point. I believe we're probably at the beginning of decades of social debate and turmoil and confrontation over this issue, but it is what it is. And it was driven by Justice Kennedy's decision to base it on an arena that's not explicitly in the Constitution, but that he teased out of the rights of privacy.
Okay, Pat, thank you very much. For Pat McGuigan, I'm Justin Doherty. For more on these topics, you go to CapitolBeatOK.com, and also there's an article on there about Oklahoma education. You attended a conference there, so you can find more on CapitolBeatOK.com. We'll be right back.